The Secrets of Doctor Who is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Doctor Who, episode 243.
One day, I shall come back.
That's it. I've been renewed.
Is when a Time Lord's body wears out, he regenerates.
I'm a Time Lord. I'm not a human being. I walk in eternity.
Bravehearty.
Change, my dear, and it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding.
Position healers. Wearing a bit thin. Fantastic.
I am Scottish. I can complain about things.
Should be fine.
Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Doctor Who, where we discuss everything about the hit BBC series, Doctor Who. And today we're discussing the 8th Doctor Big Finish audio production story, Minuet in Hell. And joining me today on the panel is Father Cory Sticha. Hi, Father Cory.
How's it going, Dom?
Very good. It's just you and me. Jimmy has this episode off. He's taking a little break. But we'll be able to manage and muddle through, just the two of us.
Oh, yeah.
Folks, remember to follow The Secrets of Doctor Who in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, your iHeartRadio, your favorite podcast app, or on the SQPN YouTube channel, where you should also make sure to hit the bell to get notifications. Stick around to the end of the episode. We do have a little bit of listener feedback that we want to share with you. We love to get your feedback, and so we'll be sharing some of that later. But first, I want to plug another show that's on the SQPN network that you will enjoy. This is a little self-serving because this is called Raising the Bets. It's a podcast I do with my wife, Melanie, and we talk about raising our kids. Get it, Bets, Bettinelli. Bets was a nickname that we had for, when I was a kid for Bettinelli. But so we talk about our kids. We talk about lots of stuff that we do with the kids. We talk about homeschooling them. We talk about food, a lot of discussion of recipes and cooking and that sort of stuff. We talk about books and movies, and we always talk a little bit about usually the gospel readings or the mass readings for the week, and kind of get into what we got out of them this week. So it's fun and it's interesting, and you get to hear Melanie, and that's always good in my book. So check it out, Raising the Bets. It's at sqpn.com/bets. That's 2 T's, BETTS, or wherever you get your podcast from. All right, before we start talking about Minuet in Hell, let's talk about the new Doctor Who Season 13, Series 13 teaser trailer that dropped just this past weekend. We record these shows several weeks in advance, so by the time you hear this, you've probably already heard about it. It's been probably a month since
people have already done the slow-mo, strip every little frame apart for every little detail, but we're going to give kind of our first impressions.
Yeah, we these are quick impressions. It's a teaser trailer. It's less than a minute long. There isn't a lot there, but Father Cory, what's your first impression of this third season for the 13th Doctor?
Well, I think one thing we talked about kind of before we started recording was, the fact that, Graham was a very popular companion because he was the comic relief. He was kind of the clown. He had the one-liners. He was a lot of fun. And of course, he's leaving, or has left, I guess we could kind of say. Yaz is the only one that remains. But then we have Dan, who's played by John Bishop. We're kind of hoping he's going to be the comic relief. And there's one scene that kind of shows that, where Yaz is in kind of an 18th century or 19th century, like the mummy type garb, type outfit. And you could see a rope where she came down, and then Dan just comes slamming into the ground on his rope. He didn't do very good rappelling, apparently. So that's kind of a hope that he'll be kind of the comic relief now that, we won't have two serious companions again, right. But we'll have, Yaz is the more serious straight man, as you put it, Dom, and Dan will be the funnier companion.
Right. Yeah, I like the inclusion of, like, John Bishop is known as a comic actor. And so I like the inclusion of someone who can be kind of fun, relieve some of the tension. It's not just up to the Doctor acting wacky, which is a thing that's become, ever since Matt Smith. It's been the idea is that the wacky Doctor. It's not all on the Doctor to be the wacky one. Right. That Dan, I don't know. I feel like he's could really provide an interesting similar viewpoint as Graham did. I'm I'm looking forward to seeing his story, why he's there.
Well, and he's older too. I mean, older relatively speaking. You know, you figure probably about my age, about 40s, give or take. You know, he's got a little bit of gray hair, and you know, he's not as young as Yaz by any stretch of the imagination. Yaz or Ryan. You know, he is more like Graham, where he is a little bit older, a little more seasoned in the world, shall we say?
Well, and where Jodie Whittaker, well, I think she's probably similar age, but her doctor acts younger.
Yeah.
You know, and so I liked having that sense of like sort of a seasoned character. I like to say seasoned. I'm well seasoned myself. A more seasoned, experienced character who kind of balances things out. I mean, the Doctor, of course, is thousands of years old, but acts younger, and I like
she
that.
Is.
Yeah, and I like that balancing. There isn't a whole lot that revealed about what we can expect as far as story goes. You know, I'm really hoping that we don't like start the season and the timeless child is sort of forgotten, you know, like we dropped this major bomb on Doctor Who mythos and then we walk away from it. I really hope that we come back to that soon, right away.
Yeah. Well, and it's one thing we do know is this is an 8-episode season. This is the shortest season basically ever for Doctor Who. And big part of that was COVID restrictions. You know, they were getting ready to start filming, you know, back in the beginning of 2020, and then it got locked down because of the COVID. And it wasn't until, you know, last fall, they could actually finally get into the studio, quote unquote, get on location, start filming. So it really affected what they could do if they were going to try to get something out early next year.
Well, in fact, they said it'll be end of this year, which my guess is we're going to start with whatever the Christmas New Year episode is, whatever they decide to do. Probably a Christmas episode, and then go from there. Because if
it's possible,
they said, you know, later this year is when it's going to come out. So my guess is Christmas, and then we go from there. So I hope what that means then, because it's just 8 episodes, that the next season isn't going to be another year and a half after that. I mean, you really can't sustain a show by having seasons every 2 years. I don't feel like that's sustainable.
Well, and this is a very British model, you know, that they don't. The idea of a show like Doctor Who running this long is extremely rare for Britain. I mean, there's some very you know. Well, yeah, I mean, especially for any show except for like a soap opera or something. But a lot of their shows are limited run. They're short seasons, you know, and they're not always bringing out seasons every year.
Well, and we found this with the streaming model, with, you know, Netflix and Amazon Prime, and like all the streaming services are now doing these shorter seasons. But if you're only gonna come out with 8 episodes, you can't. I mean, I don't think you can sustain Doctor Who on 8 episodes every 2 years. I just don't feel like that's a sustainable model for a show.
And there's you know, questions, of course, of, is Jodie going to stay for one more season after this? Is this her last season? Is she just going to do the 3? Is there going to be somebody, you know, will there be somebody else after her? You know, so I mean, I wonder if there is starting to be kind of weariness on the part of the BBC with Doctor Who, although it makes them a ton of money. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But, you know, if there's kind of weariness with it, that maybe we might be running the risk of another hiatus soon.
Yeah. That would be unfortunate from a fan perspective, because there's still a lot of life left in the show. You just need the right showrunner, the right you know, actor to be the Doctor, and you get, and it's gold. It's really gold. I feel like I'm not as pessimistic about Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor as some. I've had my criticisms. I've had criticisms of you know, valid criticisms of all the different Doctors, but also praise. And there's things I like about the current run with Jodie Whittaker. The production values are superb, through the roof. The TARDIS design, we've made our feelings known about that.
Oh yeah,
but and I feel like there's been some really nice moments with some of the characters, and we've talked about all of that. So I think there's still a lot of life left, and I would like to see, you know, if Jodie moves on. You know, 3 seasons seems to be about the norm in modern Who.
Yeah.
I feel like if she moves on, there could be some really interesting people who could come in and take over. And frankly, maybe Chris Chibnall is kind of interested in moving on to something new.
Yeah. I've said it before, I'm not a fan of Chris Chibnall as showrunner, at least not what we've seen so far. And we've criticized some of his stories already if you go back and listen to some of our past episodes. So it wouldn't hurt my feelings any to see him move on to find someone else who maybe does a better job.
Right. Someone who's more interested in kind of sticking with, honoring more. Let's see, how do we put it? Honoring the whole entire Doctor Who canon a little more closely
instead of just Richard T. Davies era.
Yes, exactly. All right, so that's our discussion of the trailer. We can move on to our discussion of this Eighth Doctor story called Minuet in Hell. And just as a reminder, Paul McGann plays the Eighth Doctor. He was in one movie in the mid-90s that aired on Fox, and then moved on to doing all these Big Finish audio productions. If you go to bigfinish.com, you can find them all there. We'll have links on our website to the Big Finish audio play that we're discussing today. And it features him and his companion, Charlie, who is a young woman he picked up in the
30s.
The 30s, yeah. And who's been traveling with them through several adventures. And this particular story came out in 2001. So these stories are 20 years old as we're discussing it now, which is kind of interesting to think about. And predate the return of Doctor Who to the airwaves.
Correct.
So I usually ask Jimmy for a recap, but Father Cory, I'm going to ask you for your recap of this story.
I think we got something for you here. The Doctor and Charlie have to return Ramsay the Vortisaur to the time vortex. In the process, the TARDIS crash lands in the generically southern U.S. newly created 51st state of Malebolgia. They wake up to find they've been separated and have lost their memories. The Doctor is in the Brigham Elisha Dashwood Laboratory of Alternative Mentalities, while Charlie is in the pretty little Satin Bottoms dormitory for the Hellfire Club. The Doctor meets Gideon Crane, a journalist for the London Torch who claims him to himself be the actual Doctor with all his memories. And Charlie befriends Becky Lee Kowalczyk, a demon hunter from the Ancient Order of St. Peter. Meanwhile, Brigham Elisha Dashwood III is living a split life as a televangelist running for governor of the newly created state and as the leader of the Hellfire Club, seeking to bring Lucifer and all his demons into our world. His partner in crime and love, Dr. Dale Pargeter, has developed a machine to empty people's minds and store their psionic matrix on quantum CD-ROMs, which, by the way, sounds really much cooler than DVDs. Senator Walter Pickering, who lost his seat in the creation of the new state and is the grandfather of Becky Lee, has his mind emptied and stored on CD while a demon, Marcosius, takes over his body. With all this going on, who would show up? None other than Brigadier retired Alastair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart, of course. He was involved in the establishment of the Scotland Parliament as a member of the Succession Party. So his cover is as an advisor to help establish the state of Malebolgia. He is also there to investigate the real story behind Dashwood, his laboratory, and the Hellfire Club. Eventually, Charlie regains her memories and works with Becky Lee and the Brigadier to find the Doctor and fight Dashwood and the demons. The Doctor's brainwaves are scattered among a number of catatonic patients and later reconstituted back in his own mind. Crane uses the Doctor's memories to restore everyone's psionic patterns to their original owners, including chasing Marcosius out of Pickering's mind. The demons turn out to be psionivores, non-corporeal parasites who feed off people's negative vibes. Dashwood is killed when firing his Trans-D transportation gun near the psionic machine, sucking him, Marcosius, and the psionic machine into the psionivores' realm.
It got really trippy there at the end.
It did.
I do like that the fact that the institution is called Institution for Laboratory for Alternative Mentalities.
Yeah.
So let's first talk about the big guest in this, Nicholas Courtney, returning as a Brigadier. This is a couple weeks in a row almost that we've had Nicholas Courtney show up outside of his usual time. Yeah.
Two classic Who episodes, if you want to count this as a classic Who episode.
Yeah. It is. It's a lot of fun. I love having Nicholas Courtney. I love the Brigadier show up all the time, and he's just as great in this one. He had previously been the Brigadier in a Big Finish production that was released the previous year. It was a 6th Doctor story called The Specter of Lanyon Moore, and that was this is his second Big Finish story. I'm not sure how many he's done, but he just is so great.
At least for. it's said that the Brigadier worked with every single actor who played the Doctor, at least in Classic Who.
Right.
Because of specials, and of course, the third and fourth Doctors, he was real important, and then on from there, showing up every once in a while.
Right, but except for the first and second, right?
Well, he was on the Three Doctor special, and the first and second Doctors were both in that.
Right. That's one I haven't seen yet. Okay.
And he was with the actual character of Lethbridge Stewart, although he wasn't a Brigadier. I think he was a Colonel. Did first appear under the second Doctor's time.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. Okay.
And I think there is a big and I think there is a big finish with the
first Doctor.
With the Sixth Doctor.
The Sixth Doctor. Yes, that's the one I was just talking about. Was the Sixth Doctor story he did called The Specter of Lanyon Moore.
Okay.
So that was and that was up before this one. So awesome. That is cool. So it's this story is set in the United States in the future. From the 2001 perspective of this release, it was set in 2003 apparently. In the undefined South, where for some reason the United States has decided to form another state. We never given an explanation of why. Well,
and this is actually something that's fairly contemporary here in the United States. For those who don't know, there are movements that are starting to gain steam in some areas, especially in the West, here in the West, to start, maybe changing up our state borders or establishing new states. And there have been for years. I mean, there have been for
there's always been
decades.
These
but it's starting to get a little more movement where there's actually people, voting on counties that are actually voting on.
Yeah, counties in Oregon that want to join Idaho and parts of Northern California going, we want to be there too.
Yeah, and not getting into the politics, just the fact of that's what's going on right now. So it's actually kind of contemporary. And I laugh, of course, about this being from the South, because I can hear our good friend Jimmy Aiken right now screaming about the accents on this one.
Well, let's talk first. The dialogue itself in the script is especially in the mouths of the American characters, is so stilted sometimes. Yeah. It like so badly, either badly written or badly delivered. I'm not sure which one it is, but
I think it's a combination of both. They tried to do some stereotypical Southern phrases, like Pickering, Senator Pickering. I mean, if you've seen Oh Brother Where Art Thou, the governor on that, that's the same character.
He sounds like Colonel Sanders.
Yeah.
I guarantee, or like Foghorn Leghorn. I guarantee that there is a Southern governor.
There's very much a lot of, stereotypical accents. Dashwood is kind of a more proper Virginia accent. And, of course, Pickering's got kind of the deep South politician accent. And there's stereotypes of, Bible thumping and, it's very, it's not a good look for trying to pretend that this is in the South, and in kind of my mind's eye, just listening to the accent, I'm thinking, okay, this would be somewhere like Kentucky, that kind of mid-South type of place.
Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, that sort of deep South. Yeah, that's what I was thinking with it. And the film mistake that they're calling Malabosia, which, like, do you have any idea what they were going for with that? Like, Mala is Latin for evil, right?
And that's probably the big part of it. I'm just trying to think of, what, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
and
not
unfortunately,
sure.
this is this is where I admit my ignorance when it comes to Latin, because it probably is a Latin phrase. But what the Malabosia, because with Bolgia, all I could think was like Georgia.
Right,
but that doesn't mean anything. So
yeah. So, and then we have the old trope of the American televangelist who is really a hypocrite, who is also has to be a Southerner. And this one happens to be a secret Satanist who runs an organization of the rich and powerful who are all Satan worshipers.
Right.
Which is just kind of, I don't know, a tired trope. I'm sorry, but it plays off of all these popular conspiracy theories that in order to become rich and powerful, you can't have earned it, you can't have worked your way to it, or your parents earned it. You must have sold your soul in order to become rich and powerful.
Well, what's interesting is, they use the Hellfire Club, which is a historical thing from England. It is from Britain and Ireland, where it was. They were accused back in the 1700s, 1800s. Most of them existed, and they were accused of being, pagan worshippers and devil worshippers and things like that. And really, they were actually basically they wanted to party and do things that were considered socially unacceptable. So lewd acts and things like that. And you kind of see a little bit of that in the story, where at one point somebody goes, one of the patrons goes to whip Charlie by ripping, the back of her shirt open and gets ready to whip her.
Well, okay, let's talk a little. This was a very creepy part of the story and made it non-family friendly. This is a family,
very much so.
Very much family unfriendly episode. And I was kind of unhappy about it, especially since, this is a Nicholas Courtney return. I want to enjoy it. And this part of it. So Charlie, as you mentioned, is in this, the happy bottom part of the Hellfire Club.
The pretty little satin bottoms. I kind of got a kick out of that name, but
right, yeah, it's creepy. They're basically a bunch of women who are enslaved and subject to forced prostitution in the Hellfire Club. And I'm like, Doctor Who? Like, this is how? And then they have other things. I don't even want to talk about them, but they refer to certain kinds of acts that are done, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about it? I felt like it was like, I wished it hadn't been in there. I think you could have had this story would have been perfectly fine if you had excised that part of it. It just wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I agree with you that it definitely took it to the point of non-family friendly. I think it did show kind of the depravity of the whole thing. I mean, that's a big thing, but did they have to go quite in the detail of, making explicit that the shirt had been ripped or whatever? It's like, no, they didn't have to go into all that. But
right.
There's one point where, it's just there's some very explicit sound effects, some very explicit acts that are described.
Right.
I think you could have left that little part off. I mean, the idea of the Hellfire Club and making it clear that this is a place where people go to do depraved acts, I think that could have been told a much different way. A lot of the stuff, once you actually got to the point where Dashwood is, pontificating up there, that's a whole nother story. I mean, that's I had no problem with all that. It's just this one scene,
right,
where Charlie first comes into it as as slave labor, basically.
Yeah,
is a little bit different.
Yeah,
wasn't too happy about that.
It made me uncomfortable. So she encounters, you mentioned this Becky Lee, who is also there, and it turns out she's a demon hunter from a family of demon hunters of the Order of St. Peter, which I think is funny.
The ancient Order of St. Peter from Poland, which is like cool.
Right. Yeah. So apparently they were found. She gives some exposition. They were founded in the 16th century to deal with supernatural evil in Eastern Europe, vampires mostly. The last recorded incident with a vampire was in Poland in 1976. The order chased it to the U.S., and then one of the priests who chased it and killed it started the American chapter, and that's where she's descended from the original members of the American chapter.
Right.
So she's basically Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, except Catholic.
Except Catholic. Right, but, well, I mean, heck, when you've got a demon possession problem, who do you call? You call a Catholic priest. I mean,
of course, absolutely.
You're not calling anybody else.
And for the record, there is no ancient Order of St. Peter, at least nothing officially.
No, there isn't.
I wish there was.
As going back to the accents, I was amused by the fact that Becky claims to be from Los Angeles and has a very nasally New York accent, which is like...
Well, then she slips into kind of a Southern accent when she's talking to her grandfather, the senator.
Yeah. I wonder if that's maybe, I guess, supposed to be a clue that she's using a legend, she's using an alias or something.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. But it was, at the time when she first did it, I'm like, that is not a Los Angeles, California accent.
Well, and to be fair, those who come from other parts, that have a very strong accent and they move elsewhere, they tend to lose that until they get back.
Right. That's right. I'm curious. I'm not sure whether any of these actors who had the American accents are in fact themselves British. But I have to say, in general, British actors who appear in American productions as Americans do much better with their accents than, in general, Americans who try to do British accents in anything.
Yeah, then we got Perry trying to be an American. Well, she wasn't.
She's the exception to that
I
rule,
know.
that's
no,
for sure.
That's true. I mean, if you watch Grey's Anatomy, if I remember correctly, I only watched like an episode or two, but if I remember right, Alex Kingman, who played, of course, River Song, she played with an American accent and did pretty well.
I mean, I've seen a lot of, I'm trying to think, there a lot of these different British actors who show up in American productions, who, or as American characters who do a great job. It's kind of funny to see that. Benedict Cumberbatch not so good in the what was it? Not The Departed. Was it The Departed or Black Mass? I forget what it was. But one of those Boston ones where he had to put on a Boston accent. Benedict Cumberbatch
Nope.
has the worst Boston accent ever. Anyway, that's something else. So so we've got the Brigadier here. He's undercover, although he's using his own name, but he's undercover sort of as. It's kind of funny. Like, why would you get some guy from Scotland to come and help you set up your new American state? Like, would we not be capable of doing this on our own?
Well, it comes out that actually the Brigadier's handlers, quote unquote, in over in England are actually
part of.
They're part of this thing. So that's why he, because you can hear him with the dial-up modem, dialing in and doing his his email reports, and he keeps getting kind of put off. I need to go investigate. Oh no, just keep on track, keep on your main target, keep on your main source. By the way, I love his email address, topdog@greyhoundrace.org, also known as Greyhound1.
Exactly.
So that's the email version of Greyhound 1.
Yeah, trap. What was it? Trap something. What was the countersign? Was trap 1 to Greyhound 1 or something like that? Yeah. And trap was in the email he was sending to or something. It was it was. I did notice that. It was great. And
I like too. It was like greyhoundrace.co.uk. Oh,
yeah.
Wrong one.
I love that he had to fixes the email address. That was really great. He does at different points seems to recognize the Doctor because, of course, he's never seen the Eighth Doctor, so
Correct.
He won't recognize him face to face. And they seem to recognize each other a little bit, because the Doctor, we should say, it's like his mind has been emptied of his memories and is struggling to, but they're there, and he's struggling to get to catch them, to get them back together again. And so at times there's these flashes of recognition or understanding that then go away. And it's kind of funny because for most of this story, the Doctor is really not part of the solution to anything.
Right.
He's just kind of there.
A lot of his memories have gone over to Gideon Crane, this journalist who it turns out the TARDIS basically crash landed into.
Yeah.
And somehow in the TARDIS, through all these explanations of whatever TARDIS thing breaks and causes the two to unite. His Doctor's memories are shifted over to Gideon Crane. So Gideon Crane really thinks he is the Doctor and starts acting as the Doctor, including working with the Brigadier as the Doctor.
That's right. And the Brigadier, he knows that the Doctor's face changes, so he just assumes this must be the Doctor's new face.
But yeah, you're right, though. There is that point when the Brigadier does first meet the Doctor, the Eighth Doctor, and the Eighth Doctor's mind scrambled, and he's like, "I know you. We've been friends." And the Brigadier's like, "There's some, you could see." He says something like, "There's something familiar about you. I can't put my finger on it."
Yeah, exactly. And so the Dashwood Institute for the Alternative Mentalities has this device, it's this crazy Doctor Who device where they'll enter your brain that allows them to do surgery on your brain, and then they'll put your memories and personality back in your brain so they don't get damaged in the surgery, which is not at all how brains work. But
no,
that's okay.
Not at all.
That's not how it works. I mean, that wouldn't even work with a computer. We're going to take the data off the hard drive and then put it back. If you break the hard drive, it's still broken.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that it's this mechanism. I'm not sure. I guess the idea was that they were from Dashwood's plan was to take the memories and personality of various important people, store them on the quantum CDs so that he could consult them later, but install the quote-unquote demons. Psionovores, in those bodies so that they can run things.
Exactly. Okay. This was, the devils are going to take over the world. And of course, I even wrote down, this is another demons are actually interdimensional aliens story.
Right. And if Jimmy were here, we would say, because it's always demons.
It's always demons, yeah. But that's exactly it. The demons were going to take over. Of course, it's pretty clear they're using Dashwood to get their way, which is to take on bodies because they're just energy. They're in non-corporeal. They don't have bodies, so they want the human bodies to take over.
Right. That's right. So, and then there's one of the demons, this Marcosius, who Dashwood installs into Pickering's body is it's acting against Dashwood. He's actually not on Dashwood's side.
Right.
He's secretly undermining him because what the Cyanivores are really interested in is just conflict.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, social media in the 2020 where we have the trolls online who are just, they're not for one side or the other. They just want to create conflict among the sides. I'm like, this is kind of interestingly predictive of our times.
Yeah, exactly. It's like every time the media freaks out because of a 4chan meme, it's like, you don't get it. They're sitting there loving you getting upset about it. You're feeding the trolls.
They're trolling you. Or, the hackers in Moldavia, or where were they? Not Moldavia. What was the other Balkan? From the 2016 election, they found that a lot of the fake tweets and all that sort of stuff was coming from Macedonia. Yeah,
okay.
And like some of the Balkans, and they think that it is all contemporary politics. I don't want to get into that, but they think it was a false flag operation from the Russians who were just trying to sow dissent in America and make us all
which worked just fine. But anyway,
yeah, it works just fine. Good job. Do it again. Maybe it's really Cyanivores who are doing it behind the scenes.
But yeah, the demon mentions Marcosius mentioned that while they will eat meat, what they really want is the emotions. They want the hatred. They want the fear. They want the anger. They want the they feed on that. And the more they get, the more like at one point he says like, I'm stuffed. I'm just filling up, getting fat.
It's the hate buffet.
Yep.
So at one point, the Doctor and the Brigadier run into each other and then get chased by the demons. And the Brigadier makes a mention about, this isn't the first time I've been chased by demons. Yep. I assume that's a story that I haven't seen yet. Or
you have. You just saw it not that long ago.
That's
the demons.
Right. Now that
Doctor.
I said that, I just literally thought of that. Which episode was that again? That was the...
That was only a couple of months ago. I mean,
it
was on this cycle of classic Who.
It was a third Doctor story, and it was. I'm vamping while I bring it up because I'm trying to remember the name. And it was with the Master, and the Master pretending to be the country vicar. And
well, the name was the Daemons.
The Daemons, right?
Yeah.
Duh. Sorry. Brain not so good. I must have been psyched out with the Psy machine.
You could go back about 2 months and you'll find that story basically.
Yeah, the demons. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot. Yes, that it's not the first time we've been chased by demons, and yes, that is what happened. All right, thank you for pointing out my faulty memory.
Yeah, no worries. I'm the same way, so I understand.
Yeah. So one thing that I noticed is that how composed Charlie stays through various crazy things. Of all the different companions that we've seen in live action or in the audio, she really, for a young woman, she stays like a literal demon busts down the door and comes in after her, and she's like, "How dare you come in here like this? I'm this is a ladies changing room or whatever." It's like there's a literal demon who just busted down your door. I like Charlie. I've really come to have an affinity for this character.
Well, she's very much in the mold of the action, or not action, but the adventures woman, who goes out and has adventures and definitely fits that mold of that, where the only time she gets shook in this a little bit is when she's basically dressed up to become the queen of Dashwood thinks his queen, but queen of the demons or whatever. And he does his little transmat thingy gun, and the demons say we can't take her because she's already dead. And of course we know why that, because she's a temporal paradox. We've talked about that before, that when the Doctor pulled her out of the blimp, he created a Zeppelin, he created a temporal paradox with her as the center of it.
She was supposed to die in the crash of the R1, I think it's R1.
R101.
R101 blimp. And he pulled her out of that, and so she's supposed to be dead. And so
But she doesn't know that, and the Doctor has been putting it off. And even at the end of this, he says, "So what do they mean by that, Doctor? Oh, let's go to this, beautiful galaxy or what, beautiful nebula where he can sit and watch the stars." Completely derails the conversation.
Yes, yes. It is interesting, and I'm kind of looking forward to how that resolves because it reminds me a lot of the Clara situation when
Hmm.
Clara departs from the TARDIS. She's in between in between moments of
Yep.
life and death. That's she's been extracted from it, and in which case are you really dead then? Because we're all a heartbeat away from death
Right.
in a sense if you look at it in that point of view. So it's kind of interesting that
Mm.
Moffat revived this idea of the companion
Yeah.
who is dead but not dead.
And this obviously with Clara it's a little bit different. It's she's locked in a specific moment in time. She still has the ability to move and do all that and talk and have live her life,
Right,
but she's stuck in that moment right before she died.
right, right. I wonder. I mean, it probably doesn't bear a lot of thinking about, but how it's different. Like, because any companion like Jamie going
Hmm.
into the future was also dead in the future. So how is that
Right.
different? But it's because it's a paradox because in the future it had been like there's a fixed moment that in time that she's dead, really.
Right.
Although fixed moment in time isn't a thing that had been invented yet.
Yeah, exactly. So it's she's kind of in an in between state, and that's why when so of course I put the whole thing with Ramsay the Vortisaur at the beginning because that started this whole story off, but we
Right.
see it in flashback. We hear it in flashback, and that's why Ramsay started acting up is because she was she's got that temporal issue going on with her, that
Right.
paradox going on with her, and that's why they had to get Ramsay out of the TARDIS and back home in the vortex.
Right, right. Yeah, because he's the Vortisaurs are time creatures.
Yep.
And
they
yeah,
feed
that
on
would,
they feed on temporal energy, and of course, a paradox will have lots of temporal energy,
yes, right,
as
right,
will
right.
the Doctor.
Of course, yeah. Okay, and then so I think we talked about that the Dashwood's dimensional interface to Hell, which wasn't really Hell, but it's
Yep.
just the realm where the Cyanivores come from. Um, they we didn't really talk about Doctor Pargeter,
Pargeter. Yep.
yeah, who was Dashwood's love interest slash co-conspirator who ran the institute where they were,
Hmm.
putting these people. I don't think there's much to say about her that we haven't already said. I'm just trying to think if there's anything to say
Yeah.
about her.
Well, I mean, of course, like she was the one who built the machine under the influence of the Cyanivores. She was the mistress, if you will, the master, the how the, I can't remember exactly how they put it, but basically the head of the dormitory where the girls were at. She was
Right,
in charge of that, and then she was used as the love interest by Dashwood so that he could get his plans put in place.
right. He was manipulating her. She ends up dying, I think. Like Becky
Yeah.
Lee ends up sort of turning her fears against her for the sake, to for Marcosius to feed on her.
Well, so what happened was basically Becky Lee was trying to use her chant to St. Peter against Marcosius, and he was able to turn that energy, if you will, against uh, Dr. Parter instead.
Oh, okay. And then she dies from that. Interesting.
Yep. Yeah, it was, or at least that's what Marcosius said happened. Whether or not he actually
Right.
did is another story. Because of course he's
yeah.
trying to torture Becky Lee in the process of all this too.
I have to be honest, I found the last act of this story to be a bit confusing. Like it was a bit rushed around and lots of things happening and jumping from here to there, and without a visual, it was a little hard to keep track of everything that was going on. But
Well, it wasn't even until like the fourth part that the Doctor finally gets restored.
right, right,
I mean, so he's like the third part ends, or part of the third part ends with the Doctor being split.
yes, and then if the fragments coming back together. I mean, the one thing he does do is he gets Dashwood to unknowingly confess his entire plan to monologue.
Yep.
on secretly on live television, live national television.
Yep.
And that undermines everything he was trying to do.
Because the Brigadier had a heart problem
Right.
that just happened to hit the button to turn the feed to live in the
Yes.
studio instead of a choir.
Right. That's right. So so that's one thing that the Doctor does do in this. But it's everyone kind of plays their role. I mean, the Brigadier, Charlie,
Mm-hmm.
Becky Lee, everybody plays a role in bringing the resolution to this, which is interesting ensemble way of doing things that feels more like classic Who than modern Who. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, it definitely does. Of course, you had, two companions, because of course the Brigadier is technically a companion. He has traveled in the TARDIS several times.
That's right.
And then Becky Lee, who kind of plays that same kind of role.
Yes, she's a sort of temporary companion light.
Yep.
So anything left to say? Anything you wanted to say about this episode?
Yeah, it was interesting. No, I enjoyed this other than the Southern aspect. I got a kick out of they did, bring in some, that the Bible. And of course they purposely did it to make Dashwood look bad.
Right.
Where like he mentioned how David had a companion, Bildad the Shuhite, which even, I think was even the Brigadier, whoever it was that says, no, really, that was Job. That wasn't David. David's was, it was, the Brigadier even says it. It was Abishag the Shulamite was David's companion, things like that. He quotes from Ecclesiastes, there's a time, and it's the exact quote from the King James Bible. Everything, there's a season, a time to every purpose under the heaven, time to be born, time to die, time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted, and stuff like that. So, but again, that was all a part of the, really look at all these Southerners that are a bunch of Bible thumping hypocrites.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. Yeah.
Other than that, I really enjoyed this. I got a kick out of the one line, one marshmallow short of Count Chocula. That was great.
That is a good line. All right. Yeah. I agree. There was things I like about it. I loved the Nicholas Courtney's return, and some of there were some good fun lines in there. But yeah, the same things we talked about that I thought could have been better, and so I give this a middling grade. Not as good as the other Eighth Doctor stories we've already done. All right. So I think from there we should go to our listener feedback. We have just a little feedback from YouTube on our recent discussion of dinosaurs on a spaceship.
Which I was so glad I missed.
Yes. And this comment comes from The Dad Abides on our YouTube channel. Says, I anxiously await this show each week. I love Jimmy, Dom, and Father. This particular episode of Doctor Who, not so much. Better to listen to this podcast than to watch this dud.
Yeah.
Thank you, The Dad Abides.
We've said it before, and a lot of people, I think a lot of people do agree. Those are usually our most fun episodes to listen to. They're definitely not the most fun to record.
Right.
Because we don't want to have to watch that episode either.
I know. Yeah, that was, if I'm ranking my least favorite episodes, I still think Moon Egg is a dumber premise.
Yeah.
You know what? At this point, I have no idea what it's actually called, but I just call it Moon Egg now. Yeah. But but this one, as a dumb premise, this one had a lot of dumb bits to it. But stuff to like. I mean, again, I liked Brian, Rory's dad.
Oh yeah.
All right, thank you, The Dad Abides. And again, we love to get comments from our listeners, so please share them. Let's wrap things up. We'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Doctor Who, including Veronica T., Maureen, Suzanne S., Adam S., and Dan W. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Doctor Who and all the shows at Stark West. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And we'd also like to thank Victor Lambs, who edits the show for us every week. So that's it from us. What did you think of Minuet in Hell? Give it a listen and let us know. You can comment on the show at sqpn.com or at the Secrets of Doctor Who Facebook page, or send an email to drwho@sqpn.com. We'll be back next time when we're discussing the 11th Doctor story, The Muppets Take Manhattan. I'm sorry, The Angels Take Manhattan. You know they did that on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Until then, Father Cory Sticha, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Doctor Who.
Thank you, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Doctor Who on StarQuest. And remember, when you die, you're so crooked, they'll have to screw you into the ground.
Right. This is going to be fun.